Welcome, everyone. I'm John Shea, the Global President of Marketing and Events at Octagon, and I'm really excited to be moderating this panel. The panel is Playing at the Highest Level, How Brands and Rights Holders Champion Creativity, Technology to Develop Immersive Experiences that Improve the Fan Experience and Drive Brand Loyalty. A quick thank you and shout out to Aquimo for sponsoring this session. Now we're going to get started with our introductions. So first up, Ronalee Zarate-Bayani is the Chief Marketing Officer at the LA Rams. Ronalee is responsible for defining and cultivating the Rams brand, serving as a key member in shaping the experiences and value proposition of the new 300-acre Los Angeles Stadium and entertainment district at Hollywood Park, and creating a modern LA entertainment experience for the next generation of fans. Welcome, Ronalee. Next up, Margi Brown, VP of Media and Sports Marketing at SoFi. Margi manages a fully integrated in-house media buying team and most recently secured the largest NFL stadium naming rights deal in history with SoFi Stadium. Margi joined SoFi as an agency vet and Ogilvy alum and has managed accounts such as AT&T, DirecTV, Motorola, Kraft, and Mattel. Welcome.
Hi, guys.
Next, we have Shawn Bryant, Managing Director, Intel Sports. Shawn works at the intersection of sports, technology, and venture capital. He leads Intel Sports operations in New York City, directing product strategy, product planning, and roadmap delivery for the group, and leads or co-leads Intel's global partnerships with leagues, federation, and broadcast networks across sports and entertainment. Welcome, Shawn.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Our final panelist is Mark Jeffery. Mark is the founder and CEO of Aquimo, a web sports game marketing company. He's also the author of Data-Driven Marketing, which was awarded Best Book of the Year by the American Marketing Association, and which Jeff Bezos named to his top 12 business books to read. Welcome, Mark.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So I think to ease everyone into the discussion today, we'll start with a question that we'll go around the horn and get a response from everyone. So as we get started, perhaps we're talking about creativity, we're talking about technology, we're talking about collaboration. I'd love to hear from everyone. How do those things come together in your organizations? What resources do you have at your disposal as we try to blend creativity and technology in the hopes of great immersive experiences? So Ronalee, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the wonderful things about working in sports is you operate as a team both on and off the field. And so when we think about the marriage of creativity and technology and really breaking through, it's in our DNA to think about it holistically. And so we're designed operationally where everyone has a seat at the table. And I know that kind of sounds odd, but all ideas are welcome from the bottom to the top. And the question is, how do you make the different objectives from an organization standpoint come together? And a lot of that stems from creativity, right? And then technology is not the end all be all, but rather an enabler of creativity. And so how do you take those ideas to engage with fans, to drive the business, to work with our partners in a way that takes it to the other level? And ultimately the underpinning of that is technology. And so it's not where we start in terms of how we think, but we definitely integrate it into the process in terms of what are the outcomes that we're hoping to achieve, and then what technology is going to help enable that creativity to come to life.
Margi, why don't we go, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. So nice to finally see your faces. I think as for SoFi, we still work very much like a startup. We manage all of our media buying, creative executions, tech builds, fully in-house. I think we believe this allows us to be agile and opportunistic and function in a way that big financial institutions really kind of struggle with. When we want to launch a campaign in 2 days, we launch a campaign in 2 days. When we want to build a new product, we build a new product. as far as for like this pandemic and outside of all like pivoting and having to work from home, we haven't experienced a ton of change on how we approach things. I think where we've seen the biggest change and challenge is really in our member experiences. We've shifted a lot of the typical happy hour meetups and member networking events to Zoom events. And we all know how much we love Zooming all day. It really has led to a number of influencer collaborations, which is very different for us. I think that type of technology has really come to fruition in this COVID era. Our members are really enjoying it. We did a session with couples and money called Financially Ever After. And then we even just did a Steven Jackson Q&A member event recently. So I think that's where we're really seeing the difference here.
Mark, how about you next?
Well, it's, we are a startup, so it's all about being nimble and very fast. And obviously with COVID, we've been demonstrating that. But I tell you, the best innovations in my mind actually come from our customers. So just as a few examples, the Clippers, somebody in the stadium I hear kind of hurt themselves catching a t-shirt. So they asked us to build them a t-shirt toss game so that you could just use your phone to catch t-shirts, virtual t-shirts. The Ravens, as another example, Justin Tucker is this awesome field goal kicker. They asked us to create a field goal kicking game. Both of these games just super successful and are actually, part of our product offering. And as we went into COVID, we're offering them virtually with both the Clippers and the Ravens.
Terrific. Shawn, round us out.
Sure. Well, I'll just echo kind of some of the points that were made earlier, going back to Ronalee's first point. You can't ever have technology for technology's sake, right? It has to be an enabler. It must lead to a solution and ideally solve a pain point or create some type of benefit for the end user. So that's kind of first and foremost. And then it really is about collaboration. And what I would say is COVID has just really accelerated trends that were already in place, right? And from where we sit, particularly at Intel, Intel has always been an ingredient company. So by definition, we've had to be Switzerland and collaborate with everyone from Dell to Lenovo and others in the ecosystem. So I think those are kind of key trends. And then lastly, you have to have an entrepreneurial spirit today, whether you're a company of 10 or 112,000 people. And so I think those are really, really key pieces.
Great, thanks all. Mark, from your perspective at Aquimo, how has COVID changed sports fans' engagement and brand marketing?
It just changes everything. I think, every one of us is going to know exactly where we were the instant we found out that the NBA is suspending play in March. It was just this earth-shattering event. I mean, the week before I'd been in the Lakers stadium. Our game was on the board, packed stadium. It was just awesome. And then the next week, it's just like, it's over. And so I think many of us were just dazed in that instant. But coming through that, you realize that there's just massive changes. So think about traditional fan engagement where somebody holds a bat, right? And it's going to hit a wiffle ball or whatever. Or they're going to come down on the court, or they're going to queue up in long lines to shoot a basket. It's over, right? They're not going to be putting VR goggles on anymore, okay? So actually, COVID changes everything. And being able to adapt in that and being innovative and agile is really what it's all about.
Absolutely. Ronalee, with the Rams moving back to LA 5 years ago and having the team play in two different stadiums during that time, building equity with new fans and ensuring their fan experience must be something you and the team spent a lot of time on. How have you used technology to further develop your relationship with fans, new and old?
Yeah, I think going back to the theme earlier, it's really an enabler. And so I think one of the interesting challenges we had is when we came back, we were, to your point, at a different stadium. We're at the LA Memorial Coliseum, and it is such a historic stadium, but with that comes probably a lack of technology infrastructure that we would love to have for our fans. We are in the good fortune of being able to open up a new stadium, and obviously with great partnership with SoFi here. Our owner has invested in the most technologically advanced stadium there is. And it's one of those things where we had hoped to allow fans to experience that in a very special way this year. But because of COVID and so many other factors, we've had to pivot, right? And flexibility and agility and actually creativity is keys to success in not only surviving this environment, but thriving, right? And it's interesting because in the past, if you think about some of the fundamentals about that brand and fan connection, there's a lot that underpins that. But in today's world, you almost have to throw that marketing playbook aside. And then you have to really focus on who's going to be more flexible, more agile, more contextually relevant, faster, and more creative, right? Because at the end of the day, the playbooks are gone and we're recreating that. And it is that infrastructure of agility and the mindset of creativity and innovation that you push through to make it happen. And so when you look at technology is the underpinning that allows you to expedite that creativity, that innovation, that agility. And so we've been looking at that on our journey with our fans, a lot of which we were hoping to bring to life in real life, right? With an in-stadium experience. But we've had to pivot and think about how do we meet our fans where they are? And today, they're oftentimes at home, they're oftentimes on the go, they're oftentimes juggling multiple things. And so having their attention for hours on end on any given Sunday looks very different for us as an NFL team now. And it's how do you keep them engaged and excited through moments that are on their terms? And that's where technology has played a key role for us. And we've also leveraged it in a way where we work with our partners to bring that to life. And the true testament of team extends well beyond our Rams staff, but also with our fans. And I think Mark had mentioned that, one of the greatest innovations came from your customer. And so very similarly, we also take in a lot of feedback from our customers and from our partners and integrate that to create that experience.
Thanks, Ronalee. A great segue to one of your partners, maybe your largest partner. Margi, talk to us a little bit about how you and your team continue to leverage a naming rights deal without fans in the stadium, and even announcing your partnership before the stadium was opened.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, opening a new stadium is hard. Opening a new stadium that happens to be the world's largest NFL stadium is even harder. And then opening the world's largest NFL stadium during a worldwide pandemic is just beyond imaginable. And outside of raising my son, it's probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. Luckily, I have a team of amazingly creative and talented people that I work with at SoFi. And we honestly sat down and banded together. We thought about what kind of content can we create that'll allow the fans and our SoFi members to feel like they're there and feel like they're part of it and see the experience that they would get when they finally are able to visit SoFi Stadium. On top of this allowed us to focus on making the digital and social elements on that game just so much more of a focus and opportunity. We recently just launched our number one fan content, and actually with help from our friends at the Rams. So thank you, Ronalee, to your team. They are truly amazing. We did just that, and we couldn't be more proud of the way the team quickly pivoted, and we went from really building strategies on how our members would physically experience the stadium to a digital and social campaign that drove home that message of one of our core values, which is really always put our members first. And, it kind of goes back to, Mark, what you said, how you listen to your customers. And we listen to our members every day. We have one of the largest member groups on Facebook right now, and they have been the ones that really helped shape our products and our experiences and the things that we do. And so I think we're just grateful that we're in a place where we are able to actually show our members that experience, and we can't wait to get them in there so they can all actually feel it.
think that will be an amazing experience for many. And so congratulations on what's been accomplished thus far.
Thank you so much, Shawn.
Look forward to probably reaching new heights in the Rams and SoFi partnership. So, Shawn, we're going to transition, I guess, out of LA a little bit and bring it a little closer to home for you and Intel. So, you and your team have dramatically changed the reputation. I think Intel a few years ago wasn't necessarily known as a sports sponsor, and you and the team have changed that pretty dramatically. TrueView, I think, is one of those innovations that has led to that. Can you share a little background on TrueView and the partnership and your partnerships with the NBA and NFL and EPL?
Sure, happy to do that. As you said, it's really a team effort, right? And essentially, from our perspective, we've worked with a lot of the leagues in the NFL, NBA, EPL, et cetera. I'm happy to give you a little bit more color around the NBA deal because that's the one that I was most closely involved with. And essentially, it really started. The most important meeting we had was probably between Commissioner Silver and our former CEO. It was a meeting that I drove, and essentially, we had a conversation, and the NBA clearly, and correctly identified the fact that there are a number of companies out there that could stroke a check for, the fees, the traditional sponsorship fees. But there were very few companies out there that could bring along 50 years of experience in really building Silicon Valley, 112,000 employees, and really help drive the ability of the league to super serve their customers. And so it really, became shifting this to a technology partnership first and a, marketing partnership second. And so that really has been the key driver. We really think that in terms of the ability to super serve those fans, it's going to be around immersive video and, and particularly giving fans the ability to kind of curate their own experiences, become more part of the action. And, those things were already in flight before COVID. And really all that's done is really accelerate the process, now. And, essentially, the leagues, are basically an affiliation of their member teams, right? So from our perspective, it's one thing to have a league deal, but, you make it sing by having a relationship with the actual teams and, going out and working with them. And in our case with the NBA, it's been around, private partnerships with the Milwaukee Bucks, Atlanta, et cetera. But, I am happy to say that we are, have the ability and are involved with the new SoFi Stadium there. And it's really, again, a masterpiece.
Amazing how clear all of you together today with that connection.
I thought you put us together.
If only I could take credit. Mark, your part of your business really surrounds the in-building experience for fans, but your technology can be used for fans outside the building at home as well. COVID has challenged all organizations to pivot and get creative, and something that you helped Coca-Cola and Charlotte Motor Speedway do leading up to the return to NASCAR. Tell us a little bit, how did that come together, Aquimo's role in doing so?
Sure, let me just let everybody know what we do, because maybe you don't know. We make mobile games, and the mobile games are so that they're very, very fast to download. It's a very light download. So think 10,000 fans in a stadium in 15 seconds, okay? Everybody gets to play, right? So we're psyched, right? We're live with 35 teams. It's rocking. Okay, COVID comes along. We're like, oh my gosh. But then we realized something that we didn't know. We're COVID compliant. We didn't know that. So it turns out you get to use your own phone, right? You can be 6 feet apart. You can be 30 feet apart. You can actually be in different states. It doesn't matter, okay? Anybody can play. You can play on just your device, or you can play on a digital board, okay? So Coca-Cola actually reached out to us for the Coca-Cola 600. It was a tough time, right? It was end of March, early April. People were, we were locked down. There's a lot of sensitivity. It's like, we can't really be marketing right now. So it's like, what can we do? we were actually inspired by the NBA, where we saw players playing, like two players playing against each other in NBA 2K. We thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if like 30,000 fans could play against a celebrity? We could all play right now. So we actually reconfigured our platform to be able to do that. We delivered 4 weeks before the Coca-Cola 600, and we did a series of live events where you played against a celebrity. This is the actual game right here, and you're going to play a cornhole game. Okay, you can kind of see you're gonna play the game. It's hard to see on the screen right there, but your bags are throwing, and we got like folks like Austin Dillon, right? He's this famous NASCAR driver, won the Daytona 500. Thousands of people playing against Austin, get a celebrity guest. And it was a lot of sensitivity this time, right? So it couldn't be really marketing. So what was it about? It was about Austin's going to share with you his favorite recipe to cook at home, okay? There's actually an area you could donate to Children's for Charity to help first responders. So it was a very positive marketing activity. And you know, what's happened with us is really things have gone very well since then. We were live with 35 teams and events pre-COVID. Obviously, everything went sideways, but I just looked at the numbers. We're live with 21 teams today, delivered 107 contests, these live activation type contests, 107 during this time of COVID.
Amazing results and a testament to you and the team and your resilience, obviously, through this. And I think really resilience is a word that many of us have used and continue to put forth in each of our efforts. Ronalee, due to the pandemic, the NFL and its teams, including the Rams, have been incredibly creative in connecting with fans and bringing them into the stadiums virtually. The Rams feature more than 1,000 fans virtually in the stands and in the end zone, and also offer augmented reality experiences to give Ram fans a 360-degree view of the new stadium. Give us a little insight to that process and how fans are responding.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about opening a new stadium, Margie alluded to earlier, it's insane, right? In terms of what that means. And not only were we opening a new stadium, we had all new branding, we had new uniforms, and COVID hit, and suddenly you don't have assets, right? Yeah. And you're like, wow, we can't get together, we can't shoot, we can't film. And then, oh, by the way, you're fast forwarding thinking that, okay, but we'll get through this and then we'll still introduce fans. So let's get this great experience. And then suddenly time keeps going and you realize that's not going to happen, right? So 3 years of planning and you're suddenly going, wow, what do we need to do differently? And because it is a new stadium, because it is a new look, you don't have the opportunity to introduce it in the way that you had planned. And so what can we do? And it's about like, how do we take our fans into our world in the best way possible? And that's where technology comes in. And you had alluded to like, yeah, we have the mix of the physical and the virtual. So we do have cardboard cutouts of our fans at the ends of the stadiums that change with every game. But if you think about that, we then, snap those, we send the actual cardboard cutouts to our fans, but then we also send them a view from their seats, right? So that they can understand what it's like to experience it there. As we think about introducing the new stadium, we work with our partners to do a whole host of different virtual events, shoots. Margie alluded to, excuse me, one of the shoots that we did with them. And so how do you bring that to life? But then we also leaned into virtual and augmented reality, right? So we enabled our fans and potential fans to have a look into the stadium by physically walking through a virtual door and then having a 360 view throughout the different spaces and angles and looks, and even some behind the scenes into our player locker room. But it's about really rethinking how we're going to bring the fan into this amazing, incredible new home of ours. And how do you keep them excited knowing that you're going to have to wait a little bit longer before you can physically experience it, and keeping that going? And it's not something that we did alone, right?
Yeah.
We do work with our partners, and we also did a second screen experience. So for every game, our season ticket members get to experience the pregame, the players running out, the national anthem. This last game, we did a Vamos Rams game in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month. And so our house mariachis, because we have a house mariachi band, because we're in LA, why wouldn't you? They actually performed the national anthem, and we were able to share that with our season ticket members via their mobile device before the game started, as they're going to watch in broadcast. And so it's about mixing all these different elements and understanding where our fans are and meeting them there.
Great, thanks. Margi, I think another term we've all probably grown accustomed to sharing all too often is talking about adaptability and flexibility. As you went through and continue to go through plans, evolving from physical to virtual, and talking about how you interact with your customer base, maybe shed some light on some of the challenges and successes and learnings that you guys have had throughout this window in time.
Yeah, I think if, outside of it being a total shit show coming into opening up a stadium and knowing that there are not going to be any fans, I think it's been a great learning experience for us all. We started with plans even leading all the way up until the end of June, where fans. And then slowly, one by one, preseason's canceled. This is canceled. Games are canceled. No fans are canceled. And I think just really being able to pivot into what is this world going to be like, and how long is this going to last? Do we plan for the short term, or do we plan for the long term? And I think we made a lucky gamble, and we planned for the long term. And we said, hey, listen, this year's a wash. Let's figure out how we now reach our fans, and how we reach our members, and how do we reach out to the LA community. We've partnered with the Rams and the Chargers on It's Good for Good, which every time there's a field goal kick, we give $1,000 to a local charity in Inglewood. And I think those are the different ways that we were able to socially and digitally really come alive and bring the stadium experience alive. Even when we knew that these fans and our members couldn't attend. So I think in those terms, we're really excited about that.
Yes. And I think we've probably all been pivoting throughout our careers. Never have I looked forward to more of, we'll probably continue to pivot forever, but I look forward to using the word less in future years for all of us. So Shawn, there's a time when getting the best seat in the house meant sitting in the front row at a stadium or in an arena, but not all sports fans can necessarily afford or have that in-person opportunity, especially this year, obviously in the midst of COVID. Intel has been a leader in VR and helping to bring an entirely new experience to sports fans of all ages. With the rapid growth of VR technology, give us some insight, how that process is evolving at Intel. Where do you see the VR experience going? How do you work with partners to continue to introduce fans to experiences?
That's great. I want to start by acknowledging first, we have Margi and Ronalee here. I want to acknowledge first the importance of the in-venue experience, right? Because that really drives everything. And, somebody famously said that, we don't build cathedrals anymore, right? We build sports arenas. And when you look at the work that HKS did with, you there in the new SoFi arena, it is clear that statement has never been truer, right? I'm looking at that amazing center hung scoreboard, dual sided. Just the technology behind that is phenomenal. So it starts with that. And I think even with COVID, what it's shown without people in the arena is that it still has, it's a whole different vibe. So I just say all that to say that even as we look at the importance of the in-venue experience, the at-home experience, you can't disassociate that from the importance of having a great in-venue experience for the fans. And, I would layer on top of that, again, this idea that, Adam Silver has kind of, again, pointed out that less than 1% of your fans see an NBA game in person, right? So we've already been focused in on what does that mean to bring the experience home. And that's why within our organization, we've really focused in on this immersive experience. Initially, it started out as virtual reality. And really what it's morphed into now is really a focus in on volumetric video. And, for those of you who are maybe not familiar with volumetric video, essentially that's an ability to take, 38 5K cameras, ring around the stadium, and create a virtual camera angle from anywhere, right? You can imagine any place a bumblebee can fly. I can create a camera angle from there. And if you think about it, what does that mean? Now, all of a sudden, I can watch an entire event from the perspective of the quarterback, if I choose to. If I want to, I can sit down and get the seats, for my friends there in LA that are Lakers fans. You can sit it from the Jack Nicholson seats if you choose to. So really, what we've really tried to do is drive that experience and understanding that the broader trends, particularly with younger fans, they want to be in a position to kind of curate. They want to be able to choose how they watch, what they watch, and when they watch it. And we think with that type of technology represents an opportunity to do that. You got to think about my 3 young children, right? They consume, they're 12 and 14. 12, do the math. I have twin daughters and a son who's 14. So, but in any event, they really are used to being able to watch under their terms and to be able to ultimately, watch a different camera angle, things that they have that are informed by their experiences from esports, et cetera. So we're really just trying to, kind of represent and reflect broader macro trends that are going on and helping to meet those needs and really super serve them. And that's what our, the view of the future is. So whether it be, people consuming it on smart TVs, headset, virtual, heads up displays with goggles, all of those can kind of fit into this view of the world.
Sure. Thanks, Shawn. Mark, Shawn just alluded to the importance of the in-stadium experience. You obviously have built games and technology that work in and out. So you've designed some exciting gaming technology, mobile apps for some of the most popular teams in sports, which keep fans entertained during breaks in the action. In addition, your platform allows teams and leagues to incorporate their own sponsors and partners into the app content and mobile games. With these tools and platforms being so important to teams and the overall fan experience, how are you continuing to grow your technology and what's in store for fans in the future?
That's a great question. So we actually broadened our offering with COVID to give teams 4 different ways to deliver the Aquimo experience. So the idea that you could, how do we start? We started with 10,000 fans, 30 seconds, everybody's playing on the board, right? It's great. When we first did this, people were jumping up and down in the stadium. It was crazy. We were like, wow, I think we got something, okay? But now we're in a time of COVID, not in a stadium, right? So we're running weekly contests. We're running game day contests. We're running live stream events. And we're running also the live events that are still 60 seconds and a timeout. We're doing that in stadium with limited fans. But you know what? We're also letting people play at home as well, okay? So it's the coolest thing. You can be in the stadium and at home and be playing on the digital board in the stadium. It's just crazy, crazy fun. So just the idea of giving teams flexibility that, maybe one team wants the in-stadium 60-second, but play at home. Another team says, look, you know what, I'll do the weekly contest, but just giving that flexibility. And what we're doing is we've got multiple games across every sport, which is really, really exciting. We've got like 5 different game modes in basketball, and I'm bringing it. We got a NASCAR game coming in 2021. It's going to be just fabulous. And so just building games, just being crazy creative, and really it's not just about sports. So we're more than that. I believe that Aquimo is truly the leader in marketing gamification. We're working with a major brand right now where we're tossing diapers into diaper bins. I think it's just totally hilarious. You win and there's like a dancing baby. To me, it's just the greatest thing ever. It's totally fun. And then you win products from this company, right? Like, who would want to do this, right? It's just totally fun. So that's what we're about. It's about having fun, being totally creative, and at the same time, bringing value to everybody in the chain here, right? So it's value to the fans. They're having fun, engaging with the brand. By the way, they play our game for like 5 minutes. It's like a 45-second game. They play it multiple times. They play for like 5 minutes each session. And they play like 3 or 4 different sessions. So we get like 20 minutes of gameplay per person, right? It's great. So the fan loves it. The brand loves it. Why? Because they're getting all these great impressions. They're like, wow. Oh, and you know what? And then we integrated in digital coupons so that you could go actually buy the stuff at a discount and they can track the ROI, right? So the brands love it, right? Teams love it. Why? Because it's about fan engagement. How can I get, a timeout happens, in a sporting event, what happens? All the fans just go, they're looking at their phone, right? So now we're engaging right there, okay? So, a value proposition to every component of this chain, and really delivering innovative products that just blow people away. You're like, wow, I just love it, and have fun.
Your enthusiasm is contagious, and I think anytime you can deliver a fun experience that creates obviously fan engagement and drives value for sponsors and team partners is certainly a great recipe. Shawn, earlier you mentioned and made reference to the broad portfolio that Intel, has today. One of the things we haven't talked about here today, which is unusual given its prominence in the world of marketing and sponsorship, is esports. And Intel has obviously leaned in a big way in esports. So can you give us a little perspective on esports and how valuable it is to your business?
Sure. Intel's been committed to esports for 15 years, if not longer, and it's really been driven by the fact that we believe that the esport experience is best experienced on a PC-based platform as opposed to a console. And and I would say personally, I didn't truly understand the power of esports, even with 3 young children in the house, until I had the opportunity to see visuals of literally 250,000 people descending on a city in Poland for the championships, in esports. I mean, and it's phenomenal. We did about 250,000 people. And so that was really, obviously pre-COVID, but it just speaks to the power of the of esports and further from a global perspective. In addition to that, I had the opportunity to structure and work on the deal to make Intel the official processor for the NBA 2K League, which was the first experience of a professional sports league launching an esports enterprise. And a couple of things really struck me there. One is this important dynamic that you'll see, and I think will only accelerate in terms of esports and the influence on traditional sports and vice versa. And by that, I mean, when you looked at what was going on in the 2K League during their first season, Brendan Donahue and Aaron Ryan were literally, as the leaders on this 2K League, were literally taking real-time feedback from Twitch and using that to impact the type of music that was being played during the game broadcast, as well as the camera angles. So I think what you'll see now is more of an experience like that in the trade-offs between the two. I mean, you heard, Ronalee talk about what's going on inside of the stadium. You look at what Mark is doing in his business. I see this gamification of sports and life only continuing to accelerate. And I think that, by being, focused in on that part of the world, we're uniquely positioned to participate and help drive change and have an impact around the esports world.
We are going to begin to wrap up, and we'll wrap up in a similar manner to as we started. So I'm going to ask one question, and then we'll have each of you offer a response. So what can you share about 2021 from your organization's perspective, from a personal perspective? Do you have new partnerships that you want to break here? Do you have campaigns you're going to launch? Are there new priorities on your horizon? So you can just share what's important to you and your organizations for 2021. I think the audience today would really appreciate that. Shawn, you want to kick us off?
Sure, why not? Echo, first of all, thanks so much for including me in this process, John, and really it's been great, here listening to Margi and Ronalee and and March in their comments. And, you know, again, I feel smarter now than I did, you know, when we started this process. So thank you. You know, what I would say is, you know, it's kind of a very simple statement, right? Necessity is the mother of invention. And I think that's going to be the key message for 21 and beyond. And I think that invention is going to come from a couple of different worlds, right? You know, it's going to come from the big companies and the leagues, particularly around sports. We talked about the NBA and the things that, you know, Adam Silver and Bill Koenig and the owners are doing there. And that's going to be huge. You know, in terms of partnering with them, you know, I've had the opportunity to speak with Commissioner Goodell, literally at 30,000 feet, and understand kind of his perspective. And clearly, you know, the abilities and the resources the NFL can bring to bear, you know, have a seismic impact out there. So I think you'll see more innovation and activity there in those partnerships. But I also think, you know, that what you're going to see is a lot of innovation at the smaller business side, right? I mean, I think with the, you know, things that Mark's doing in Aquimo, you look at, you know, what the innovation has come out of companies like DraftKings, you know, and them being funded by like the Reigns of the world. I mean, really a lot of that innovation that you're going to see, I think, impact our businesses and things going forward are going to come from these smaller to mid-sized companies. I mean, look no further than the things that are coming out of the NBA's bubble and the technologies there with their rapid testing around, you know, COVID. You know, that's a start, that's a stand-up with Yale. So I think that you'll see, you know, innovation both at the large level in our partnerships, but also, and as importantly, with these, you know, small to mid-sized companies going forward. And hopefully by being engaged with all of them, we'll be able to break new barriers and super serve fans and consumers kind of globally.
Great. Ronalee, you want to weigh in?
Sure. Well, I echo Shawn's sentiment, and thank you for bringing us all together. I jokingly said you actually like clustered us, but in many respects, the happenstance of that actually proves the ecosystem is quite interconnected and not small, right? But we're all going to thrive together, right? Like all boats rise together. And I think as we look into 21, this year has been such a unexpected year, to say the least. I think jumping into 21, there's going to be a resurgence of excitement around sports, but I think it's interesting because with that is also going to come different expectations, because you've had a year where you can experience things in different ways, whether we wanted to or not. And I think there's going to be more expectation to be able to continue that, even when you can go back to some of the old ways of experiencing sports, whatever that was. So I think that expectation then puts the onus on those of us in the industry to really step up, to innovate, and to apply some of the best practices of before with the manifestations and the expectations of the now, of the moment, of where I am, you name it. And so I think as an industry, we're going to be more innovative because we're going to need to be in order to thrive. And as it relates to like certain things I'm personally looking forward to, man, I am looking forward to opening the doors of our new Rams house at SoFi Stadium and bringing fans in there so that they can experience the technological and architectural wonder that it is. If you can see right behind me, that double-sided video board that literally spans from one field from the end of one field to the other. It's 120 yards long, double-sided, 4 stories high. I mean, what you can do in terms of that experience, I'm super excited about.
For good reason. Mark, weigh in on 2021 for us.
Again, I'm a nerd, right? So I look at all the data, right? I mean, I'm looking at the COVID curve. I went back to like 1918. I'm looking at the curves, man. I'm like trying to understand what's going on here, okay? The good news is it's going to go away at some point, right? But I think just saying it like it is, we've got 7.5 million cases in the United States. There's like 300 million people that live here. it's actually a pretty small percentage. So actually, we've got an awfully long way to go because you need about 60% or so, or 70% of people to get the herd immunity thing, right? So as a leader, for me, what does this mean? COVID is not going away like soon. I mean, it's not, okay? So 2021 is kind of like 2020. And then you're like, what? Okay, so now strategically, I have to think about that. Like, what do I do right now? Sure, are people going to be back in stadiums? Absolutely going to be back in stadiums. But is it going to be 100% capacity? I don't know, right? So probably not, right? So again, we got to manage that. But I'll say this, so a key insight, right, is markets are made during the downturn, okay? They are, right? That's when Intel invested in those massive like wafer things, like that was that last big downturn, right, we had. So markets are made in the downturn, and it's like, you know what, we're hiring, right? That's what we're doing. We're growing rapidly. I'm actually very excited. So there's things you can do. It's the funniest thing, right? We would be in Japan, and all they wanted would be the QR code to play the game. That's all they want. And this was like 2 years ago, okay? So, and in the United States, it'd be like, well, what's a QR got to do with anything? I don't get that, all right? Guess what now? You go to a restaurant, right? And there's a QR. There's a QR right there, okay? Boom, right? You get the menu, right? Here's the coolest thing. In all our stadiums, we got QRs everywhere. Scan it, boom, you're in the game, done, okay? It's that fast, right? So actually, there's positive things that come out of this COVID, right? It's these subtle little changes that in our culture then become normal. Oh, it's normal just to point your camera to QR, just as one example. So just kind of in closing, I think, as a leader, understanding what does this road look like? It's going to be a long road. There's going to be some fundamental structural changes to the industry as this happens. And as a leader, how can you take advantage of it? What can you do? I mean, thinking that through, right? And how do I get from here to there and be successful? And it's hard. It's a grind every day, right? But that's what you got to do. You got to fight it every day, and that's how you win. That's how you succeed.
Margi, hit us with your
next. Last but not least, John. First off, I just want to thank Clio Sports for having me here. What an amazing group of colleagues to be surrounded by. And thank you, John, so much for keeping this light and keeping us moving. I truly look forward to the day when we can all enjoy a cocktail after this. But until then, as for the future of SoFi, I mean, I'm super excited. And we have such a huge year ahead of us. We've started the launch of our credit card. We just launched our TGIF ETF, which I don't know that I can legally quote what it did, but it did amazing on the first day. All of a sudden my legal hat came on. I mean, we just plan on continuing to be agile enough to adapt to this ever-changing environment. And we've got super smart partners with CAA and Troika and possibly Aquimo one day. Again, Mark, call me after this. But we just really can't wait to open our beautiful SoFi Stadium. We want our members to see like what an exclusive experience they can have. And hopefully they'll fall in love with our little baby Sophia just as much as we have, so.
Terrific. Well, in closing, I want to thank each of you, Ronalee, Margi, Shawn, Mark. Really appreciate your time and your insights. Clio for bringing us together, and Bleacher Report and Aquimo for partnering with this great event. So thank you all, and I look forward to seeing you all in person sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
Cheers, John.